Block 51. First cultural misunderstanding. It was a typical Thursday when I encountered my first significant cultural misunderstanding. In the Cultural Exchange Club, we were planning a presentation for younger students, and I suggested incorporating a traditional Japanese tea ceremony demonstration. I described the steps carefully, hoping to convey the precision and mindfulness behind the ritual. One of the American students, Alex, misinterpreted my intentions. "Why are we spending so much time on a boring tea thing? We should do something exciting, like sushi rolling or a game." His tone wasn't aggressive, but the bluntness startled me. In Japan, direct criticism like this is rare. Disagreement is usually expressed subtly. I felt a surge of embarrassment and confusion. I wanted to explain, but worried that my English wouldn't convey the nuance. I paused, trying to understand the cultural lens through which Alex viewed fun and engagement. Later I reflected. Patience and observation are key. Misunderstandings are not failures, they are lessons in perspective. Block 52. Addressing the conflict. The next club meeting was tense. I decided to speak up. "Alex, I understand that you want to make it fun. The tea ceremony may seem slow, but it teaches focus and respect, which are also important." My voice was cautious but deliberate. Alex blinked, surprised. "Oh, I didn't think about it that way. Sorry, I just assumed it would bore the kids." We discussed compromise, including a short, engaging tea demonstration followed by a sushi-making activity. The balance allowed both perspectives to coexist. The experience taught me that conflict resolution abroad required clarity, assertiveness, and empathy, skills I had rarely needed in such intensity back home. By the end of the meeting, the misunderstanding had transformed into collaboration. I realized that cultural differences are not obstacles. They are opportunities to practice patience, communication, and compromise. Block 53. Lessons in patience. The following week, I noticed the subtle ways cultural differences affected everyday life. Group work in science often felt chaotic to me. Students spoke over one another, debated loudly, and sometimes ignored structured plans. My instinct was to organize, take notes meticulously, and correct errors quietly. Instead, I tried observing. I let discussions unfold, noting dynamics and interjecting only when needed. Slowly, I learned that patience was not passive. It was strategic. Waiting, listening, and choosing the right moment to contribute made my input more effective and respected. At home, I reflected on this while helping with household chores. Emily's younger sister repeatedly mispronounced Japanese words I had taught her. Instead of correcting immediately, I encouraged her attempts and gently guided her pronunciation. This small exercise mirrored the lessons from school. Patience fosters trust, understanding, and growth. Block 54. Adapting communication styles. By mid-February, I noticed progress in adapting communication styles. I had learned to read subtle cues, modulate my tone, and adjust expressions to American norms while maintaining my cultural identity. Misunderstandings still occurred, but I approached them with curiosity rather than frustration. During a classroom debate on environmental issues, I initially hesitated to speak, worried my accent and phrasing might confuse classmates. Then I remembered the Cultural Exchange Club lesson. Clarity over perfection. I presented my points simply, supplemented with examples from Japan, and asked questions to engage peers. The response was positive. Classmates nodded, asked questions, and integrated my perspective into the discussion. I realized adaptation didn't mean losing myself. It meant bridging two worlds, honoring both perspectives and finding a voice that resonated across cultures. Block 55. Reflection on growth through challenges. One quiet evening, I reviewed my journal entries from the past months. Mispronunciations, awkward interactions, homesickness, and cultural misunderstandings all stood side by side with moments of laughter, friendship, success, and belonging. I realized that each challenge had been a catalyst for growth. I wrote, "Living abroad is not a linear path. Misunderstandings are inevitable. Patience, empathy, and flexibility are essential tools. Every misstep is a lesson. Every effort is progress. I am learning to navigate not only language and culture but also human connection in its most nuanced forms." Folding an origami crane, I smiled. It symbolized peace and hope, but now it also symbolized resilience and adaptability. As February drew to a close, I felt stronger, more confident, and ready to face new challenges with courage. Block 56. Announcement of the school competition. March arrived with a new wave of energy at school. Posters and announcements covered the hallways. The annual inter-school academic and cultural competition was approaching. It promised quizzes, science presentations, art exhibitions, and performance challenges. My heart thumped with excitement and anxiety. Emily nudged me. "Hiroshi, we should join a team for the cultural presentation. You know Japanese traditions best." Jason chimed in. "Yeah, you'll shine. Plus, it's a chance to show everyone your hard work." I hesitated. Competing meant being in the spotlight, facing judges and peers, and risking mistakes. Memories of past presentations came to mind. Some went smoothly, others left me tongue-tied. I realized that competition would push me beyond classroom comfort into something far more public and high pressure. At the first meeting, teams were assigned. I joined a mixed group of students I barely knew, tasked with creating a presentation on global festivals. My role was to cover Japanese festivals, integrating elements from tea ceremonies, New Year, and local traditions. Block 57. Preparing under pressure. Preparation began immediately. Our group met after school, brainstorming, rehearsing, and dividing responsibilities. I meticulously created slides, printed handouts, and practiced my oral explanation in front of Emily and Jason at home. Yet, pressure mounted. One evening, Alex, a teammate, criticized my pacing. "You're too slow, Hiroshi. We need energy." My instinct was to withdraw, but I reminded myself of past lessons: patience, adaptability, and clear communication. I explained, "The ceremony is about mindfulness and rhythm. Speeding it up would lose meaning, but I can highlight key steps more dynamically." Alex nodded, albeit reluctantly. Through trial and error, our team learned to integrate differing styles: my structured approach, Alex's energy, and another student's humor. The process tested my ability to negotiate, adapt, and maintain cultural authenticity under pressure. Block 58. Performance anxiety. The day of the competition arrived. The auditorium buzzed with students, teachers, and visiting judges. My heart raced as I glimpsed other teams, some presenting lively skits, others demonstrating experiments. Anxiety tightened my chest. Backstage, Emily whispered, "Breathe. Remember, you know this. Trust yourself." Jason added, "We've practiced. You've got this." I nodded, trying to steady my shaking hands. When our turn came, I stepped onto the stage. The audience seemed enormous, and for a moment, fear threatened to paralyze me. Then I began. Words came slowly at first, but as I demonstrated origami folding and explained festival rituals, I noticed nods, smiles, and curiosity in the crowd. By the end, applause rang through the auditorium. I exhaled, realizing I had survived. And more than that, I had shared a piece of Japan with confidence. The fear had been real, but it had been temporary, overcome by preparation and focus. Block 59, Teamwork and Reflection. After the presentations, our team gathered backstage to evaluate. "We did it," Jason exclaimed. "And you led your section beautifully, Hiroshi." Emily smiled. "I loved how you stayed calm, even when Alex kept pushing for speed." I reflected on the process. The competition had been more than performing. It had been a lesson in teamwork, compromise, and self-trust. Balancing my cultural integrity with the expectations of others required diplomacy and courage. I realized that leadership was not always about being the loudest or fastest. It was about authenticity, patience, and clarity. Back home, I wrote in my notebook, "Pressure reveals character. Collaboration tests patience. Performance teaches courage." Every challenge is an opportunity to learn not only about others, but about myself. Block 60. Personal growth through challenge. In the following days, the results were announced. Our team had placed second, a remarkable achievement considering the diverse skills and perspectives we had to harmonize. Yet, the ranking was less important than the experience. I noticed a shift within myself. Tasks that once felt intimidating now seemed manageable. Public speaking, teamwork under stress, and cultural explanation had become areas of confidence. My language skills had improved not just technically, but socially. I could now convey ideas, handle criticism, and maintain poise. Most importantly, I recognized the power of embracing challenges rather than avoiding them. Competition had tested my knowledge, patience, and adaptability. Emerging stronger, I realized that life abroad was not just about learning English or academics. It was about growth, resilience, and self-discovery. Folding a crane after the announcement, I wrote, "Every risk, every misstep, every anxious moment contributes to who I am becoming. I am not just surviving this journey, I am thriving." Block 61. Subtle tensions with a friend. It started subtly. Jason, who had been my closest companion since the beginning of the school year, began acting differently. During basketball practice, he would make small jokes at my expense, teasing my accent or my meticulous way of doing drills. At first, I laughed awkwardly, unsure if it was friendly banter or something more. Later in class, he interrupted me while I tried to explain a project idea. His confidence clashed with my cautious approach. I felt a mix of frustration and confusion. How could someone I trusted suddenly behave differently? After class, I walked home silently, replaying interactions in my mind. I realized that cultural expectations played a role. In Japan, subtle teasing is less common and direct confrontation is avoided. In contrast, in American culture, playful teasing is often a sign of closeness, but I sometimes misread it. By the evening, I decided reflection was necessary. I wrote in my notebook, "Not every tension is conflict. Misunderstanding is part of friendship, especially when cultures differ. Observation, patience, and honesty are my tools." Block 62. Choosing to communicate. The next day, I approached Jason after school. "Can we talk?" I asked cautiously. He blinked, surprised but nodded. I explained how I had felt during practice and group work, embarrassed and confused by some comments, though I understood they might have been jokes. Jason listened, his expression softening. "I didn't realize it bothered you. I thought we were joking around. I'm sorry, Hiroshi." We discussed boundaries, communication styles, and how to navigate humor and friendship. I realized that openly expressing feelings, something less common in Japanese culture, was crucial for deeper connections here. By addressing the tension, we prevented misunderstandings from festering and strengthened our bond. Block 63. Observing social dynamics. With the tension resolved, I began observing American social dynamics more carefully. Group interactions, lunchtime seating arrangements, casual teasing, and conversation flow all held subtle codes. Students often relied on humor, shared interests, and informal gestures to gauge closeness and trust. I tried experimenting. During a study group, I interjected a light joke I had practiced, and classmates laughed, nodding in approval. I noticed that participating in humor while maintaining respect allowed me to integrate more naturally into the social fabric. Even minor social norms mattered: holding doors, greeting teachers with casual hi, or sharing snacks in the hallway. These small gestures created trust, goodwill, and deeper friendships. I realized cultural fluency was more than language. It was observation, empathy, and responsiveness. Block 64. Deepening friendships. As spring approached, friendships strengthened. Jason and I began strategizing basketball drills together, sharing schoolwork tips, and discussing music and movies. Emily and I spent weekends exploring local cafes, museums, and neighborhoods. Through these interactions, I noticed patterns. Trust developed over time, shared experiences built connections, and vulnerability fostered empathy. I even joined a weekend community service project with classmates, helping at a local food bank. Working alongside peers in meaningful, cooperative tasks deepened bonds far beyond casual conversation. I wrote in my journal, "Friendship is layered. Shared laughter, trust, teamwork, and mutual understanding are all threads. Each interaction weaves a stronger connection, bridging cultures and personalities." Block 65. Reflection on social integration. By the end of March, I felt a profound sense of belonging. School was no longer a series of challenges. It had become a community in which I could navigate academics, clubs, and friendships confidently. I had learned that cultural differences could cause tension, but also offer opportunities for growth. Reflecting in my notebook, I realized interpersonal tension is natural. Misunderstandings are lessons. Social dynamics are subtle, but observing, adapting, and communicating fosters connection. Friendships here are not only about shared interests, they are about empathy, honesty, and effort. Folding an origami crane for Emily and Jason, I smiled. Each crease symbolized a moment of learning, a small victory in trust and understanding. I had learned not only about American culture, but also about myself. Resilience, openness, and the courage to navigate difference. Block 66. Preparing for the school cultural festival. April brought excitement to the school. The annual cultural festival. Every club prepared presentations, performances, and interactive booths showcasing international traditions, art, and creativity. For me, this was both thrilling and terrifying. The Cultural Exchange Club had chosen to create an immersive Japanese experience. Traditional games, origami workshops, and a mini tea ceremony demonstration. I spent hours preparing slides, origami cranes, calligraphy displays, and small explanations, all meticulously planned. Yet I couldn't shake the self-doubt that gnawed at the edges of my mind. What if I mispronounce something? What if students find it boring? What if I fail in front of everyone? Emily noticed my unease. Hiroshi, you've done this before. The festival is about sharing, not perfection. Just be yourself. Jason added, remember how well you handled the competition? You've got this. Their encouragement helped, but anxiety lingered. I realized that confidence wasn't the absence of fear. It was the courage to act despite it. Block 67. Technical setbacks and crisis. The day before the festival, disaster struck. Half of the slides I had prepared wouldn't load on the school computers. Origami supplies were missing from the storage room. My neatly planned tea ceremony demonstration seemed impossible. Panic surged. I sat on the floor of the classroom, head in my hands, overwhelmed. My thoughts spiraled. Maybe I'm not capable. Maybe I should have left this to someone else. Maybe I don't belong here. For the first time in months, self-doubt paralyzed me. Emily and Jason arrived, sensing my distress. We can fix this, Emily said. We'll figure it out together. Jason added, it's not about perfection. It's about sharing what you love. With their help, we improvised, printed backup materials, borrowed origami paper, and simplified the tea ceremony steps. I realized that crisis was not the end, but an opportunity to test resilience, adaptability, and teamwork. Block 68. Facing the festival crowd. Festival morning arrived. The gymnasium buzzed with energy, laughter, and music. Students, teachers, and parents wandered from booth to booth. Our team set up quickly, nerves and adrenaline mixing in a strange cocktail. As the first visitors approached, I felt my heart hammering. I took a deep breath, recalled Emily's advice, and began explaining origami in the tea ceremony, folding cranes slowly and demonstrating the steps with care. Children's eyes widened with fascination, teachers nodded approvingly, and even skeptical classmates lingered, intrigued by the cultural details. Despite lingering anxiety, I spoke clearly, answered questions, and guided participants through activities. Each interaction boosted my confidence incrementally. I realized that courage wasn't instantaneous. It grew in moments of action, reflection, and engagement. Block 69. Lessons learned and self-reflection. By the end of the festival, I was exhausted but exhilarated. Our booth had been one of the most visited, and students left with smiles, folded cranes, and stories about Japan. Teachers praised my presentation skills, teamwork, and authenticity. Later that evening, I reflected in my journal. Fear and self-doubt are natural. Setbacks are opportunities. Preparation, flexibility, and support from friends turn anxiety into growth. Confidence is not about never being afraid, it is about taking steps despite fear. I realized that this lesson applied beyond festivals or school projects. Life abroad required constant adaptation, patience, and courage. Every challenge, small or large, offered an opportunity to learn, connect, and become stronger. Block 70. Confidence and moving forward. The festival experience marked a turning point. I felt a deeper sense of agency, not only in school activities but in my life abroad. Confidence was no longer a distant ideal. It was a practice, nurtured through preparation, action, reflection, and support from friends. I continued participating in classes, clubs, and social events with renewed energy. I tackled presentations with less hesitation, engaged in discussions more openly, and navigated cultural nuances with growing intuition. The self-doubt that had once immobilized me now existed only as a reminder of growth. Folding one final origami crane that night, I wrote in my notebook, "I am capable, adaptable, and resilient. Challenges are opportunities. Fear is not my enemy. Action despite fear is my path. I am learning not only about another culture, but also about who I am becoming." Block 71. Approaching midterm exams. April deepened into May, and the hum of midterm exams filled the school. For the first time, I faced a concentrated period of academic pressure abroad. Teachers emphasized essays, lab reports, and timed tests, and I realized that managing multiple subjects in English demanded focus, discipline, and stamina. I spent evenings in my room, revising notes, creating study guides, and practicing essay structures. Occasionally, I would glance out the window, the sun setting over palm trees, and remind myself why I was here. Growth, challenge, and experience. Emily and Jason often studied alongside me, creating a rhythm of camaraderie. Yet sometimes I worked alone, translating key concepts from Japanese to English in my notebook to better grasp unfamiliar topics. The pressure was intense. Each assignment reminded me that academic rigor abroad was higher, expectations were different, and every point counted toward final grades. I struggled with time management, balancing extracurricular commitments, social life, and exam preparation. But slowly I discovered strategies, breaking tasks into smaller goals, creating visual timetables, and rewarding myself after completing each study session. Block 72. Balancing extracurricular commitments. In addition to exams, the basketball season entered its final stretch, and the Cultural Exchange Club prepared for a spring showcase. I felt stretched thin, torn between academic responsibilities and extracurricular passions. I realized I needed structure. I created a weekly plan: mornings for schoolwork, afternoons for basketball practice, and evenings for club planning. Initially, the schedule felt rigid, but I discovered it allowed me to maximize productivity while maintaining energy for both work and social interactions. Through this process, I learned that balance required conscious effort, prioritization, and flexibility. Unexpected events, sudden assignments, surprise quizzes, or changes in practice schedules tested adaptability. Each challenge forced me to evaluate my commitments, adjust, and make decisions confidently. By mid-May, I felt a new sense of competence. I could manage responsibilities without feeling constantly overwhelmed. Balancing activities became less about perfection and more about intentionality and awareness. Block 73. Planning independent travel. With school responsibilities structured, I turned attention to a personal goal: independent travel. For the first time, I planned a weekend trip to San Francisco, a city I had longed to explore. The task was daunting: transportation, accommodations, budgeting, and navigating unfamiliar neighborhoods, all in English. I began by researching buses, trains, and local attractions online. I compared prices, read reviews, and created a detailed itinerary. Every step, from booking a hostel to identifying nearby restaurants, demanded careful planning and cross-cultural navigation. I double-checked maps, wrote down key phrases, and informed my host family of my plans. The preparation itself was a lesson. I realized that independence abroad required not only language proficiency but also organizational skills, critical thinking, and problem-solving. Each detail mattered, and every contingency needed consideration. Block 74. Experiencing the city. The weekend finally arrived. Boarding a bus to San Francisco, my heart thrummed with excitement and a trace of anxiety. The city was vast, bustling, and layered with diverse cultures, architecture, and history. I followed my itinerary, visiting landmarks such as Fisherman's Wharf, the Golden Gate Bridge, and Chinatown. Navigating public transportation and reading schedules in English tested both patience and comprehension. Ordering food, asking for directions, and interacting with locals provided invaluable immersion. At times I struggled with accents or unfamiliar phrases, but each challenge strengthened my confidence. In the evenings, I reflected in a small notebook I carried. I noted not just locations visited but lessons learned: independence, resilience, and problem-solving. Traveling alone, even for a weekend, deepened my understanding of living abroad. It was more than sightseeing. It was practicing autonomy, decision-making, and self-reliance. Block 75. Reflection on growth and independence. Returning home from San Francisco, I felt a profound sense of accomplishment. I had planned, executed, and navigated a trip independently, managing language, logistics, and personal safety. The experience revealed capabilities I had not fully recognized: planning, confidence in unfamiliar situations, and the courage to act independently. I reflected on the semester so far. Academic pressures, club leadership, sports, social challenges, and independent exploration. Each experience, though demanding, had layered growth and resilience. I realized that living abroad required more than adapting to a new culture. It demanded autonomy, perseverance, and self-awareness. Writing in my journal that night, I folded a small origami crane for luck and reflection. Every challenge, every task, every trip builds confidence. Independence is not just a skill, it is a mindset. I am growing, learning, and becoming capable in ways I could not have imagined before coming here. Block 76. Preparing for end-of-year exams. The school year was drawing to a close, and the atmosphere was thick with anticipation and stress. End-of-year exams loomed over every student, and I felt the combined weight of multiple subjects. Teachers emphasized cumulative knowledge, practical applications, and timed essay writing. My notebook overflowed with review sheets, vocabulary lists, and practice problems. The pressure was real. I often found myself comparing my current performance to classmates, feeling the tension between wanting to excel and managing my mental and physical health. I scheduled study sessions, alternating between subjects and taking breaks to avoid burnout. Emily, Jason, and a few classmates formed a study group, and our collective efforts made the workload manageable. I also reflected on strategies learned throughout the year. Breaking tasks into small goals, practicing under timed conditions, and reviewing feedback on previous tests. Each exam became an opportunity not only to measure learning, but also to practice resilience, focus, and time management. Block 77. Facing academic pressure. Exam week arrived, and the pressure intensified. Sitting in the exam hall, I felt a mixture of nerves and anticipation. The questions were challenging. Essays that demanded synthesis, problem-solving that required precise logic, and vocabulary that tested the depth of my English proficiency. At first, my mind raced, recalling formulas, sentence structures, and historical facts. But then I applied a technique I had learned: slowing down, focusing on one question at a time, and relying on preparation rather than panic. Step by step, I worked through each paper. Mistakes were inevitable, but I reminded myself that learning is cumulative and resilience more important than perfection. During breaks, I chatted quietly with Emily, comparing notes and encouraging one another. Peer support, I realized, was as crucial as individual effort. Exams were not merely tests. They were opportunities to reflect on growth, practice discipline, and measure the progress of months spent adapting to a new academic and cultural environment. Block 78. Reflecting on the year's growth. With exams complete, I spent quiet evenings reflecting on the year. From my first hesitant steps into the school building to navigating cultural misunderstandings, competing in presentations, joining clubs, and planning independent travel, the growth had been remarkable. I noticed tangible changes in myself: increased confidence in speaking and writing English, improved time management, and the ability to balance academics, extracurricular activities, and social life. Beyond skills, I had developed patience, empathy, and adaptability, essential traits for thriving in any environment. I wrote in my journal, "I came to the United States uncertain, nervous, and dependent. I leave this academic year stronger, capable, and independent. Every mistake, every friendship, every challenge has contributed to who I am becoming. I am learning not just a language, but a way of navigating life." Block 79. Planning for the future. As the end of the school year approached, thoughts of returning to Japan and planning for the future became more frequent. I considered academic goals, which subjects to focus on, which skills to strengthen, and how to leverage my exchange experience in future studies and personal development. Travel plans, cultural experiences, and friendships also became points of reflection. I began thinking about maintaining connections, both with American friends and with the broader world I had started exploring. I researched potential summer programs, considered volunteering opportunities, and even contemplated a return visit to the United States. In planning for the future, I recognized the importance of setting realistic goals while remaining open to unexpected opportunities. Flexibility, reflection, and ambition could coexist, guiding decisions that would continue my growth long after the exchange program ended. Block 80. Celebrating achievements and growth. The final week of school was a time for celebration. Awards were handed out, club activities were recognized, and friends exchanged tokens of appreciation. Though I did not win every award, the true victory lay in the journey itself. Overcoming challenges, building friendships, navigating a foreign culture, and achieving personal growth. At the farewell gathering, I spoke briefly about my experience, expressing gratitude for teachers, friends, and host family. I realized that this year had reshaped my perception of independence, resilience, and cultural understanding. That night, folding a crayon in my notebook, I wrote, "This year has been a tapestry of experiences, challenges, successes, and learning. I am leaving not only with memories, but with skills, friendships, and a deeper understanding of myself and the world. The journey continues, and I am ready for the next chapter.